Hi, today I'm going to show you how to check color contrast for SmartArt images. I've started with a basic SmartArt that you might use within a course, and it's just basic colors, so let's add some color to it. Now, one thing to keep in mind is that I'm just doing change colors here. I'm not choosing my own. I'm using one of their pre-filled, and some of these meet standards and some do not. The typical blue fill meets most of the standards, but not all of them. So let's look at the orange. We have an orange background with a white text. So to check color contrast, you want to do this and get your colors set up before you start adding any effects or any text to them. So we're going to start with the basic format here. If you add an effect to it before you check your color contrast, I'll show you what it'll do. So I've added the polished effect, and that makes them look 3D. But to check the color of the background, you go into right-clicking on the image, you just click Fill, and you click More Fill Colors, and typically that'll give you the range. But look at what color it's telling us that this is. It's telling us it's black. Okay, and we have RGB of 0, which gives you black. This is not a black image, so that's what you get when you have an effect added to the color. So we don't want that. We want to be able to see what the color RGB numbers are. So I'm going to go back to the simple fill. I'm going to right click on it. I'm going to see what my fill is, more fill colors, and now I have my RGB colors for the orange. So that's how you find your RGB color numbers for each of your images. So I'm going to close out of this for a second, and I'm going to minimize this screen so that we can see the WebAIM color contrast checker. So this website, WebAIM, is web accessibility in mind. It has loads of resources for not only color contrast, but just anything and everything that deals with accessibility for web content. So this is their color contrast checker page. And you notice here we have the foreground color, which is typically your text color, your background color, which is your shape color, and then it tells you your contrast ratio, and it tells you down here normal text, whether it passes or fails, large text, and then graphic objects. We want to pay close attention to the normal text and the large text here. So I have the orange added. We have white text on an orange background. So let's make sure we have this correct orange color. So let's go to Fill, More Fill Colors, and there's our RGB code. So let's go over here and we click on the orange box, and it pulls up the same basic color code options. So let's change this to match. So the red is 237, and that's correct. The green is 125, and the blue is 49. So when I do that and I click OK, you notice that with a white text on this orange color background, we have failed all of the standards. And our color contrast ratio is 2.77 to 1. Remember, to pass this normal AA standard, it has to be at least 4.5 to 1. It's optimal to have 7 to 1 to reach the AAA standard, but 4.5 to 1 is your minimum. So we're a ways away from that. So how do we fix it? How do we change our colors? Well, one way is to darken the background. If you want to keep your white font on the foreground, you darken the background. So to do that, we can go into the RGB and we can change our colors, or we can use this lightness to darkness scale and slide it to the darker side. So we've gotten to 4.5 here, and that passes the normal AA standard, But to pass the AAA standard, you got to go pretty dark. So let's see if I can get close to 7. So there's 7. Ooh, perfect. 7 to 1. But it has to be a little bit more than that. All right, so 7.63 to 1. But that's not an attractive orange color. So that's not our optimal. So let's go back up to where we were. That's pretty close. So let's see what happens when we change our font color against the orange background. If we slide this, we go darker and darker. Once we get over here to the dark grays, then we pass here, but we could go all the way to black and we pass everything. So the black font on the orange background works. It passes all color contrast standards. So that is really your optimal choice. So this is how you check, but you notice that over here in our SmartArt, the contrast ratio did not pass. The white text on the orange background that was in the presets does not pass the contrast ratio standards. So be careful with those. Make sure you choose font colors that meet standards. And you have to go in and check each and every one of them as you go. Sometimes you can eyeball it and you can tell it's really dark. You know, if you use white on a really dark color on blue or black or gray, you're going to pass. But what about something like this? We have the same color text, white text, on these different color backgrounds. So let's find out what our RGB would be. So let me scooch this over so we can see all of them. So I'm going to go back over to WebAIM and I'm going to change my font back to white. And let's find out what our yellow font color is. We go to Fill, we go more Fill Colors, and there's our RGB number. So we go over here to the background, we click on the color, and we input the RGB numbers. So red is 255, green is 192, and blue is 0. We click OK, and we notice that this one does not pass any of the font of the color contrast standards. So what if we change it all to black, the font to black? We can pass all standards. Wow, that gives us a quite high contrast. We could even go a gray, a dark gray for this one. But definitely black passes with flying colors. So if we go over here, let's see if black back of text will work for all of the colors. So let's go into the blue because that's our darkest color. More fill colors. Let's take that RGB and put it in over here on WebAIM. We have 91 red, 155 green, and blue is 213. Alright, so our standards pretty much pass. Let's go to black. So black passes on that blue. So the blue over here is our darkest color, so we can pretty much say that the black font is going to work on each of these colors. But to be sure, we can check each one of them. Go to Fill, More Colors, and let's check our green color here. 48 red. Green is 232, and blue is 69. And we see we pass with flying colors again, 12.75 to 1. So just by changing the color of your font in this graphic, we have made our color contrast acceptable. So let's go to Home, let's go to our font color, and let's change that to black. So here we go. That passes all color contrast ratios. Alright, so let's look at another thing here, and let's look at adding an effect. So we add this effect. We've lightened just slightly, but remember, we had color fonts contrasts that were really, really high. So even the small bit of lightening that this did to the colors, it still passes color contrast, you can be sure. So that is how you check your color contrast in your SmartArt graphics. I hope this has been useful for you, and be sure you read through all the information on color contrast from WebAIM. Thanks.